are watching T Radio V, radio in TV.
The Social Action Media Network and T Radio V present Creating Good Work Live with your hosts, Ron Schultz and Greg Franks.
Well, welcome to Creating Good Work Live, where week in and week out we are dedicated to bringing you the finest in social innovators and social entrepreneurs solving many of our most pressing social issues. I'm Ron Schultz.
And I'm Greg Franks.
And today our focus is on food and social impact, what we eat and what we waste, and creating the support systems necessary to meet basic human needs. The work our guests are doing will hopefully inspire others to see how they too can find a place for themselves to reach beyond their own lives and benefit others. So let's get going. Our first guest is Rick Nahmais, who is the founder and executive director of Food Forward. Before founding Food Forward, that's a lot of F's, isn't it? Yes. Before founding Food Forward in 2009, Rick was an award-winning professional photographer and writer whose exploration of California's agricultural workforce in the Migrant Project, Contemporary California Farm Workers, gave him a deep appreciation of and involvement in the food justice world. Rick's conviction that access to healthy, fresh, nutritious food is a human right culminated in the birth of Food Forward. Since that founding, Rick has been recognized as a food champion by the LA City Council and was a solo presenter at the 2014 South by Southwest Eco Conference. He was the 2010 winner of the LA Social Venture Social Venture Fast Pitch, and in 2016 he received an inaugural Trailblazer Award by the International Association of Culinary Professionals. We're fortunate to have him with us as our guest today. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's begin in a rather obvious place. What is Food Forward about?
Food Forward is a 501c3 nonprofit which is aimed at collecting and distributing produce that would otherwise go to waste and getting it to people in need and inspiring others to do the same. We are a small staff with a huge volunteer corps, and we work in 3 programs to do this work. First, where we started, where I began up a tree in the valley, harvesting backyard fruit that would otherwise fall. Mm-hmm. Most people don't realize that your average mature fruit tree can give off 500 to 1,000 pounds of fruit effortlessly every year. And your single family dwelling might use 50 pounds of that if they're lucky. The rest of it goes to squirrels or landfills. Mm-hmm. So we use armies of volunteers in Ventura County and Los Angeles County to harvest that food and get it to hundreds of agencies that feed the hungry. Our second program is Farmers Market Recovery. Again, volunteer powered. We use teams of volunteers at nearly 20 markets from Long Beach up to Ventura, with over a dozen in Los Angeles. And we do the same. We collect produce that would be thrown out at the end of the market session and link that up as a bridge organization that we are, with agencies that then distribute it to folks in need, ranging from farm workers to the elderly to LGBT folks to homeless, many, many, many more. And then the last program we run is at the downtown wholesale terminal, the produce terminal at Alameda and 9th in that whole district. We're using a truck to basically collect large quantities of produce that would otherwise be wasted and do exactly the same, pass it on at no cost to agencies that need it.
That's great.
Was there a particular incident that occurred that stimulated this program that helped for its creation?
I can't say there was one. There were several. Part of it was having, again, through the work of the Migrant Project, a deep understanding of who gets to eat and why, and I felt the injustice in that. There was the 2009 recession where I was seeing fruit falling in my neighbors' yards and lines forming at food pantries a few blocks away. But I was also personally, I think, called to action after the 2008 election, which I was personally involved with as a volunteer, both around the election of Obama and the defeat of Prop 8. And I was very excited with the hopefulness of one and really quite shaken up by the denial of rights through the other. And instead of kind of getting even angrier in a place that I was for the 8 years prior to that, I decided to kind of, I guess, turn the other cheek and do something positive.
Yeah, great.
And Food Forward came out of that.
You know, as you speak, there are so many different parts where this is all in Southern California that you're sharing. How extensive did you find it to be throughout Southern California?
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is the history of our region. I mean, before Hollywood, before real estate, before all the other stuff, we were just about less than 100 years ago the citrus capital of North America. We were growing the stuff, and then we became the distribution capital of it. So there's all this legacy logistics and machinery and culture around the citrus industry in particular, and then avocados, that's instilled in our geographic DNA, if you will. And so part of Food Forward's mission is to reconnect people with that, to really understand the unique place we hold in the country around feeding folks, and give them an opportunity to reconnect with that.
So why is this work so important in today's world? I mean,
well, we are throwing away over 40% of what we create in the way of food. And you just take that one sentence, and that's been proven now in multiple studies the last few years. It's a shameful statistic.
yeah.
I mean, it's wrong. We have a drought. We have people that are hungry. We have fossil fuel that's being wasted. I could keep listing all the reasons why I find it shameful. We each have the opportunity personally, and I believe the mandate personally, to be able to change that. And in a world where there's such a chasm between haves and have-nots and all these, quote, unsolvable problems and intractable problems, we have the solution right in our own refrigerators, our own backyards. And I think we're at a point where we need to take responsibility for it. And this is, thankfully, the simplest of concepts.
Sure is.
Take something off a tree, give it to someone in need. It couldn't be easier.
Right.
And in a world where we're tied to our screens and our technologies and all this other stuff, it's a breath of fresh air that allows people to kind of unplug for a few hours, reconnect with their community, and make a change that after that time spent with us, they actually see boxes piled up. If you go
Right.
on our website or on our Facebook feed,
Yeah. Well, we'll
you would
some
see these boxes, people just are able to see the result of a few hours of work. And I find that's such a rare gift. And I didn't create that. I tapped into it, and our team and our board and the volunteers tap into it and amplify the message. But it is amazing how starved we are as a culture for simple solutions and impact on a personal level.
Yeah, it is right in your backyard as it is.
Literally.
So describe for me Food Forward's vision for fighting hunger and food waste and building community.
So yeah, there's kind of three prongs, I'd say, to our work. It's the harvest food, whether we're up in a tree, we're out in a field in Oxnard with strawberries, or we're at a farmer's market. It's connecting with that sustainable agricultural system. There's fighting hunger. It's getting the food to the people in need in a dignified way, in a healthful way. Most food banks are doing amazing work, but they're really stretched when it comes to fresh produce. And we're just throwing it away by the boatload.
Yeah.
So it's that connecting, fighting hunger. And the last piece, which I think is equally imperative, is the build community. It's connecting folks who are interested in environmental causes, food issues, animal welfare, politics, and actually bringing them into service under the umbrella and through the lens of food, which to me is one of the most powerful lenses there is, because it's something we all do 3 times a
Right.
day and can share that.
Yeah, it's great.
And so the concept is sharing abundance in any way you can.
And it's really surprising. I want to. We're going to screen a video here that we have, but the video, just to set this up a bit, is surprising in that the little clip that we're going to talk about is somebody who you normally wouldn't think of needing these kinds of things, and yet shows up as. So if we've got that cued, let's see that.
We were invited to be part of a fast pitch, which is a growing movement of, you have like 3 minutes to kind of give an elevator speech in front of 500 investors to earn some money. And, we did really well. But the kicker was that my coach at the time came with her family, and the family had a nanny. She was well dressed. She came from looked like a very nice middle class background, and she pulled me aside at the reception after the event, and she said, "I just have to thank you, because I think it was like 3 weeks earlier, I didn't have a job, and I was eating the fruit you guys gave at the food pantry that you spoke of in the presentation. But the immediate understanding that hunger knows no boundaries, and that everybody has moments, and sometimes more moments than others, where they need assistance. This wasn't a woman sitting with a sign at the end of a freeway off-ramp saying food needed. This was a woman that somehow was able to pull herself together and dress well and get this job, and was now kind of in a nice middle-class family watching the kids. But just a few weeks earlier, she was on a much different place. And the food that we provided was a lifeline for her. And that felt really powerful. I don't want us to become just another anti-hunger nonprofit. I think we come at it with a slightly different view of the value of the food, of the people, and of the human capital that it takes to make it all happen. I don't think it has to be like nobility to go and help other people, but there is an amazing call to us when you look across Los Angeles and you see the number of homeless encampments and the people that are clearly living outside because they have to. No one lives under an underpass because they want to. It's because they have to. And what can we do? What can each individual do to soften that, to make it just a little bit better?
Question, Rick, how many lives are you touching per day, and how many of those lives are children?
Our food reaches an estimated 1.25 million people a year. To scale that down, we're supplying approximately 1 million servings of fruit per week now, which is kind of crazy. And I'd say about 25 to 30% of those are children. And again, children get caught in this equation often very helplessly. Their parents are doing the best they can, and they're kind of, they're subsisting on fast food or snacks from a corner store. And produce just often is a thing that falls through the cracks because it's perishable and it's hard to travel with, and it's not as easy as Doritos.
Well, we're going to come back, Rick, with some questions about the operations and about the philosophy of this process right after our break. And you're watching Creating Good Work Live.
We'll be right back with more Creating Good Work Live.
In Los Angeles and its surrounding counties, a region whose roots grew out of a rich agricultural history, 1 in 7 people today is lacking reliable access to affordable, nutritious food. Meanwhile, over 40% of the food we produce is wasted. What if there was a homegrown organization that connected these two problems with solutions? Food Forward. Our staff and volunteers recover and donate over 150,000 pounds of fresh produce every single week from backyards and public spaces, over a dozen weekly farmers markets, and from the downtown wholesale produce district. 100% of this healthy food reaches over 1 million people annually through hundreds of direct service agencies, like youth programs, shelters, food pantries, and senior centers, all feeding the hungry across Southern California. Got fruit? Got time? Get involved. Food Forward.
Open your eyes. Los Angeles is one of the top destination cities for human trafficking. If you see something, say something. Call CAST. Your call remains anonymous. Interpreters available. Human trafficking is all around us. Open your eyes and let them lift theirs.
Welcome back to Creating Good Work Live on T Radio V.
And we're here with our guest, Rick Nahmais. And Rick, I want to go back to this whole notion of you can't do this kind of work without encountering some challenges along the way. What have been some of the issues you've had to face here?
Well, taking an idea from something that a handful of people want to do to something that becomes a formal nonprofit and then becomes a logistics operation and then becomes part of a national movement. At each step, I'd say we were and continue to be challenged with capacity building. You know, how do we do more, retain the efficiency and professionalism that we've become known for, yet also retain the culture and the vibe of what our events are like. And there is a culture and a vibe, if you ask anyone that's been to a Food Forward event, that's pretty unique. And that's a challenge, but it's one we're up for. I mean, what I loved is from myself to my operations director, to my development director, communications, everybody who's come into the Food Forward fold came out of a background that was not nonprofit. We came in sideways. None of us have our, nonprofit management MBA or any of that other stuff. And so we all brought disparate skill sets that all have kind of linked into this wonderful puzzle that sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. For the most part, though, there's a lot of creative thinking and there's a lot of problem solving, and we get it done and then move on to the next thing. And I love that. It's very vibrant. Every time you walk into our workspace, it's a hive of activity, whether it's interns or it's board members or it's volunteers picking up equipment or somebody solving a deeper problem. I love the energy that has emanated from this organization. I feel really blessed to be one of the people at the center of it.
You know, I'm really struck by all the food waste and the hunger issues we face in our community, and a community as wealthy as ours. And I'm wondering, how is this indicative of other social issues that we're facing?
In what sense?
Well, they go beyond food. I mean, it's a sensibility as to how we relate to social justice, to issues.
Yeah, well, you're asking me this at a really inflammatory week, let's say, of where the issues politically couldn't be more brazen and in front of us, as far as where a vast number of Americans that I never would have expected, there's a sense of entitlement, there's a sense of me first, there's a sense of, screw the other guy so I can get ahead, that I not only can't relate to it, I'm appalled that it's been fanned to such a flame and such a conflagration at this point. It really disgusts me. And I have to say, what I've had to do in my own life in many instances when I see this ugliness is turn from it and use it as a motivator to do good. I just can't think of it any way, because if you sat and actually looked at the energy being put into this gathering of people in Cleveland this week, and the anger and the vitriol and the hatred, it's sickening. It's really sickening. It makes you feel like the human soul can crumble, and there's so much more to it. So again, I try to take those instances and turn them into something positive, because I can't live any other way. I can't live with that kind of philosophy running through my veins. It just doesn't work.
Are there other places you also begin to see this occur?
As far as the work we're doing?
The behavior.
Well, I see it as a top-down situation. I mean, I spent 8 years under the Bush regime, as we all did, and it was a hate-filled 8 years. It fueled my work as a photographer, which was all social justice-driven. It was showing humanity and heroism in people on the margins. And I still find that work and that perspective on the world very important. I still find great inspiration in people who are fighting fights and have much greater struggles than I had as a child or as a person, as a white, middle-class male who may be an out gay man, but in every other way I can pass. I find those stories inspiring, and I find them important to focus on. I just find it a little different now because I'm part of the story. I'm not telling it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I'm not the photographer standing on the outside, but I'm leading an organization which is doing the work of change. And that is a massive transformation personally. For me, that's It's moving from two-dimensional, literally, a photograph on a wall, to a four-dimension, where I not only have to integrate with folks, but there's this just kind of give and take and this great cross-pollination that happens on, but there's also the frustrations that come with it. And I do see, you know, as you guys are dealing with entrepreneurs, and I mean, the term social entrepreneur really didn't exist 10 years ago, at least to most of the world. I still have to explain it to a lot of people, but I think now you've got people that want to make a career of doing good in an innovative way that's about 2015, 2016.
Right.
And that just, I love that reinvigoration. And I think technology's played a part in it. I think the divisiveness of politics has motivated a lot of people, like it has myself. And then you've got people that are just seeing the world in a much different way. There's an interconnectedness now that is both a beautiful thing and it brings its challenges. But to know that you can be part of Kiva and make microloans to women doing business in India and help change their lives by a few clicks of a button is a pretty empowering thing.
So doing work like this is going to require you to create some key partnerships and some relationships in order to be able to, to bring these things to kind of grow the business, if you will. And so, who are you working with? What partnerships are you, and what are you looking for in other partnerships?
Well, it's a great question. I think it works on multiple levels. We have partnerships with everyone as kind of fundamental as the city of Los Angeles. I literally led a harvest last Sunday at Orchid Ranch Park out in Canoga Park. That took many years to establish that relationship of trust with the city and the LA Parks Foundation. It's now a wonderful relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We have over 500 agencies receiving food from us. Some of them directly, some of them indirectly through feeder organizations. So that requires a lot of skill and maintenance and give and take. And to me, a partnership is just that. It's two people bringing something to the table. What I'm not interested in is a relationship that's all about one party giving and one party taking.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a little bit of learning. When I don't feel like an organization is living up to their part of the bargain, either we call them out on it and say, how do we make this better, or we move on. But I do feel like, we have great partnerships with Cal State Northridge. We harvest their 400 tree orchard in a huge event every April. I see partnerships with my funders. They are people who are investing in our work, and I owe them not just a description of what we're doing, but hopefully examples of how we're taking their money and making it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some of Food Forward's current initiatives?
Well, we are going to be growing the wholesale program. We're currently in the midst of a fundraising campaign to grow our work a bit. It's called Bring Someone to the Table. It's on our front page at foodforward.org. That's running for a few more weeks. And we're basically going to be reaching deeper into the San Gabriel Valley with our backyard harvests and our farmers markets. And we have a new farmers market launching in early April, I think April 7th in Long Beach. So that's a new beachhead of activity in the South Bay. And if people want to volunteer with us in any of these events, or even capacities such as being an intern in the office, they can go to foodforward.org and find out information there about what's happening. They can also sign up for our newsletter called Fresh Juice. It comes out every 2 weeks and basically gives them the whole, information on what we're doing, where we're at, events, and so forth.
So besides the volunteering for picking the fruit, et cetera, what can people do besides gleaning the orchards with Food Forward?
Well, they can open their wallet and donate funds to us, which is always a great way to help us out. It's 100% deductible. They can buy merchandise on our website. But honestly, I would say that if people really want to get involved with this movement, and it's a movement now. I just came back from a conference a few weeks ago at Harvard where 300 leaders in the food recovery world met up for the first time. And it was pretty powerful, all over the country, even folks from Canada doing this work. To become part of this movement couldn't be simpler. You start in your own refrigerator. You start figuring out, what am I buying too much of? What am I throwing away? And stop throwing it away. Compost it. That's the easiest beginning. Buy less. Look at what you're ordering when you go out to a restaurant. Do I need this? Should I share a meal with someone? Should I take it home? If I take it in a bag, why don't I just give it to the guy in the street that might need a meal instead of putting it in the back of the refrigerator and then throwing it away 2 weeks later? I think looking at your own life in very small and direct terms and making the change there, eating with intention, and just making those things happen in your own life is the best starting point.
Well, that's great, Rick. I really appreciate this, and I think we've got a contact slide for you of where people can find you, and that we will post here. But we really appreciate you coming on Creating Good Work Live today and sharing this with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is
Appreciate it.
Rick Nahmais from Food Forward at foodforward.org. Make sure you check it out.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Greg.
We're gonna take a short break here, and then we're gonna come back with Jenn Simmons from Net Impact, and further this conversation on social entrepreneurship. Thanks a lot.
There's more to come on Creating Good Work Live.
In Los Angeles and its surrounding counties, a region whose roots grew out of a rich agricultural history, 1 in 7 people today is lacking reliable access to affordable, nutritious food. Meanwhile, over 40% of the food we produce is wasted. What if there was a homegrown organization that connected these two problems with solutions? Food Forward. Our staff and volunteers recover and donate over 150,000 pounds of fresh produce every single week from backyards and public spaces, over a dozen weekly farmers markets, and from the downtown wholesale produce district. 100% of this healthy food reaches over 1 million people annually through hundreds of direct service agencies, like youth programs, shelters, food pantries, and senior centers, all feeding the hungry across Southern California. Got fruit? Got time? Get involved. Food Forward.
Hello, we are the Net Impact Los Angeles professional team. Our 3 focus areas this year were local homelessness, social entrepreneurship, and informal community building.
And now here's Ron and Greg.
And we're back with Creating Good Work Live. And our next guest is Jenn Simmons, who's the president of Net Impact Los Angeles. And Jenn is a social justice and sustainability writer, entrepreneur, and cross-sector collaborator who has dedicated herself to inspiring and supporting people to address the world's most challenging issues. She joined Net Impact to connect people to one another and encourage them to in making a social and environmental impact through their careers. Jenn is also interested in how art acts as a catalyst for social change and inspires the viewer to take action. She is currently working on ways to connect artists together to create bigger public installations to inspire civic action and innovation. And we're very pleased she could be with us today. Welcome, Jenn.
Thank you so much.
So let's start off with a little background about Net Impact in general, and more specifically the LA professional chapter, which truth be told, I first became engaged with in 2003.
Oh, great. Great. Yeah. Just a little background on Net Impact in general. Net Impact started as a way to supplement a traditional MBA program. And so they wanted to give MBA students a way to use their passion for social and environmental issues through business. And before, there wasn't really much to do as far as a business school to have that emphasis. So it started, and it kind of gained speed, and now we have Net Impact has over 300 chapters worldwide and about 100,000 members worldwide. So it's a really connected, amazing group of people, community, And the Los Angeles chapter is autonomous in a lot of ways with great support from the central office. And we are a great group here that's really trying to connect people together around how to use business as a force for good in the community. And so I think a lot of people who decide not to go to get their MBA but want to kind of tap into the network that the traditional MBA really does help you with, they'll come to the professional chapter and really make connections and try to collaborate to either start social enterprises or find ways that they can really get involved in the community.
Well, you've been very busy over the past year. So let's take a moment
Thanks
to
for
talk.
noticing.
Yes, it's very, very obvious.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment for you to describe some of your most successful programs and initiatives over the past year.
Sure. I think part of the leadership team, what our focus was to understand, since we do have a lot of autonomy in Los Angeles, is to say, what are the biggest questions facing our city? What are people talking about most? What are people scared about? What are the underlying issues that kind of are ingrained in our community here in Los Angeles? And so what our leadership team did this year was just kind of keep our eyes and ears open and say, okay, what are people talking about? And then we group together and we say, yes, let's focus on this. So this year the biggest issue that we focused on is homelessness, and we've tried to create programs that had varying perspectives on homelessness, and we have a working group that is kind of in support of furthering solutions or getting the community involved. The other is to celebrate the social entrepreneurship community here in Los Angeles. It's really thriving, and there's so much energy and passion around social entrepreneurship, and so we really wanted to take time to celebrate and really inspire people to do that in the community. And then the other, I would say, we do a lot of sustainable farm food initiatives as well, trying to get people together to talk about the agriculture of the city. There's a lot of inroads, as Rick said too, in Los Angeles. It's a really fertile area that is kind of suffering from climate issues and stuff like that. So understanding better where our food comes from and how we can consciously decide.
So there are a number of international net impact issues the organization addresses. We have design, climate change, and food, just to name three. How has your team decided on which issues to focus?
Yeah, the Los Angeles chapter is really trying to, so let me back up. The three kind of big initiatives that Net Impact Central has laid out for this year is climate change, food, agriculture, sustainable food, and mobility. And the fourth is racial equity as well. Mm-hmm. And so those are the big issues that they're focused on. And so within that, we've tried to create, okay, what can we do, what's specific to Los Angeles that needs addressing? So that's kind of how we thought about climate change and sustainable food, but also with an emphasis on homelessness, because I think that's the question.
Well, I want to screen a video that came out of your central office, I think, that really connects with what you're talking about here, with what our previous guest, Rick Nahmais, was talking about from Food Forward as well. And if we're ready, let's see that.
By 2050, the world's population is expected to grow from 7 billion to 9 billion people. Our food system today tells a complex story of local and global challenges, growing vulnerabilities, and stark contradictions. Right now, nearly 1 billion people worldwide go to bed hungry every night. Well over 2 billion people are overweight or obese, and diabetes and malnutrition are on the rise. Meanwhile, in the US, 1/3 of the food produced for human consumption is lost due to spoilage or waste. And people aren't the only ones impacted by the status quo. Our environment is under immense pressure too. Globally, agriculture contributes to almost 25% of greenhouse gas emissions, uses 37% of land mass, and accounts for 70% of all fresh water extracted for human use. It's also a major polluter, as runoff from fertilizers and manure disrupts water sources like lakes, rivers, and coastal ecosystems. To meet the challenges of our food systems today and in the future, we need more innovative and sustainable solutions. You can do something to help. Net Impact members are making a difference. Local chapters host events where you can engage on topics like food waste, nutrition, and sustainable agriculture, and you can work side by side with food system experts at a solution lab. At Net Impact, we offer ways to get your ideas heard and to gain valuable cutting-edge professional skills. To learn more about how you can get involved, email food@netimpact.org.
So let's talk a little bit here about Los Angeles and what makes the Los Angeles social entrepreneurial scene kind of really special. And, so what is the community like here from your perspective?
Sure. What I've noticed in Los Angeles specifically is that there's, you come here and most people are coming here from somewhere else. So it's a big kind of transitional city, and people come from all different backgrounds and industries. We have a huge creative group of people, so either in film or art, fine art, and so there's a lot of ways to connect across sectors, and I think that that's what we've really seen in the Los Angeles chapter, is that there's a lot of people that are coming here and they want something better from work, and they don't want to go down the traditional route of maybe within a business or within a corporation. They want something more in how they spend their day. So they come here kind of searching and in discovery mode of what are those things, what are their values, and how can they apply those to the job or create something completely new. And I think that we have an advantage here because Los Angeles is a city of dreamers, and people come here and can collaborate and really share that passion together over something that's really creative and innovative.
Well, given the unique factors that you're facing, there are so many obstacles that you have to overcome. What are some of those that you've engaged in order to bring communities together?
Yeah, I think tying back to something that Rick said actually is that people are really hungry for understanding how they can personally make a difference, and I think that's really most of our community here is people are just hungry for understanding what can I do to make a difference and what can we do as a community. And so I think one of the obstacles is, besides the traffic and getting everyone together in the same location, is really trying to find those action-oriented ways that they can get involved in the community. And then beyond that, I think that a lot of companies are kind of slowly getting, integrating more social and environmental initiatives, but not all. So I think that there's kind of a huge demand of young talent out there who are just ready to jump into this, and there's not as much supply.
Well, great. Well, we're going to have to take a short break here. How fly times, huh? And when we come back, we're going to speak with Jenn a little bit more about Net Impact and its relationship with Los Angeles. And we'll be right back.
You're watching Creating Good Work Live on T Radio V.
Hello, we are the Net Impact Los Angeles professional team. Our 3 focus areas this year were local homelessness, social entrepreneurship, and informal community building.
Sustainable Law Group is a different type of law firm. Our clients are primarily social enterprises, nonprofits, and green businesses. Our mission is to provide legal counsel that is aligned with our clients' values by providing integrated, sustainable, and comprehensive solutions. We're a full-service law firm. Starting a benefit corporation, cooperative, or nonprofit, the attorneys at the Sustainable Law Group are ready to support you in all stages of your business. Find out more about Sustainable Law Group at sustainablelawyer.com. Most anti-bullying efforts rely heavily on bystanders to take action, leaving your child with no protection. The No app aims to change that. Now your child can summon the assistance of a policewoman to tell the bully no, and you get alerted in real time with a map of your child's location. With video evidence, the bully's parents can be confronted, and school officials can be forced to take action. You get increased peace of mind, and your child gets increased self-confidence.
We're back with Ron and Greg.
Mr. Franks?
Well, most of your events that you engage in are programs that are centered to communities. And how are those communities? How do you engage them after an event takes place?
I think that's the number one focus that we're trying to really address right now, is that there's a lot of energy at an event and at something where people are engaged in kind of hands-on interactive workshops. And then it's that sustaining that energy after the event. And so what we're really trying to do is find ways for groups to come together at an event and then have more engagement afterwards, like meet regularly facing some kind of issue, or have a group that pops up that can really start asking questions after the event. So we're working on that right now, and I think that's the number one most important priority, because a lot of people are really excited about the event, and then afterwards there's a little bit of a drop off. So we're addressing that right now.
Yeah, this notion of lots of talk and turning talk into action is absolutely critical in these kinds of areas. So in your opinion, what's lacking from the social impact community in terms of that can make the community more active? It can make it bigger, stronger, better?
Yeah, I think that we need a couple of things. One thing is that cross-sector collaboration. I think that a lot of the events that I go to are really business focused, but within those business, people come from all over. I mean, all different types of industries, and so there's a richness there and a diversity that can really create incredible things that haven't been created before of just a group of business people or just a group of scientists. So I think that more of that cross-collaboration and bringing in the art world and the science world and really coming around one specific issue and then getting everyone in the room and expanding each other's minds about what's possible. I think that's the biggest thing that's lacking, but it's a great opportunity, I think, for organizations like ours to kind of bridge that gap and be that bridge to all the different sectors that are kind of working on the same thing.
We see that you have a lot of really nice events coming up, and they're unique. And will you share with us what some of those events are and what you have planned?
Sure. I'm really excited about one event in August. It's called Art and Sustainability Festival. And just like I was talking about, we're trying to get more art into the sustainability, environmental, social justice equation. It always has been, but I think more on the business side, there needs to be more artists involved. So part of the show is going to be is like performances from artists. There's going to be virtual reality for social impact, so people can see a Syrian refugee camp or something that you're actually taken there to see what's happening, so you have a better conception of these issues across the world. And then we'll have performers, artist, poet, a comedian, and then the second half of the event is really breakout sessions about sustainable travel, or how to get involved, or how to form groups around these issues. So that's really exciting. Our big event at the end of the year is in December. It's called the Make Change Awards, and that is with 3 other organizations in Los Angeles, which is Conscious Capitalism, Happy City, and Social Enterprise Alliance. And that is a celebration of social enterprises. And we did our inaugural event last year, and it was a great success. Over 50 social enterprises were represented there, and I think that it can be even bigger this year. So any social entrepreneurs who want to nominate themselves as part of the process or know a friend, we want to get as many people in the room that are doing good work.
Yeah. Well, this notion of art, I think, is really important, and its connection to business. My perspective on this is that art really has the opportunity to revitalize a community in ways that we totally underuse. And I know that this is an interest of yours, this whole area of art and business. And I wonder if you could talk to us about why that's important for you.
Sure, yeah. I really think that, one, art has this incredible way of being able to envision something different than the reality. And not only that, but able to show you a reality maybe that a lot of people believe in an illusion instead of the reality. So it exposes a lot of truth, but then it also helps you envision something better. And so I think the whole point of, in business, it's deconstructing the old and re-envisioning something different. And so in the business world, and specifically social entrepreneurship, you're doing that all the time. You're deconstructing old systems or outdated systems or ways of doing business, and you're re-envisioning what could we do to make the world a better place and more prosperous. And so I think bringing artists in who are doing that through fine art and self-expression in any form can really help businesses grow and brainstorm about new alternatives to the way that we're living now. So I think we wanted to bring in, we have a lot of people that are creative. We wanted to bring that art world and respect the art that's being created here for environmental issues, but also to try to inspire people to think outside the box, not talk about a marketing plan, but rather re-envisioning a world that we live in.
Well, you're also art is such a magnetizing element as it is as well. It not only is a way to enliven more creativity, to enrich more creativity, but it also really kind of magnetizes people to an idea as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it brings people together it rallies communities around a certain art piece or installation.
Yeah, as you say, inspires them.
Yeah.
So, what's your vision for Net Impact going forward, and what type of impact do you want to make?
I think that this year we've really done a lot of building as far as the infrastructure of the group, and I see so many people that come here, and they're so eager and very impressive. People from all over the world that come to Los Angeles. So I think what I want going forward is to be more of a convener of how do we convene these people together, and really, if the social entrepreneur is working by themselves in a garage somewhere and just pouring their heart and soul into a business, how can they take a break and go outside and be around like-minded people that are really, trying to make a difference? So we want to be with our partners, a central hub of people that can have that outlet and be inspired by other people that are trying to do the same thing, but in different scenarios and different companies. So I think, and I think also sustained engagement, ways to have actual programs and actual action items where when people are transitioning out of a traditional business role and into social entrepreneurship, they can work on tangible projects that are going to an organization or company, so that they have that kind of bridge between jobs in that transitionary phase.
So do you see Net Impact as welcoming folks who beyond the master's program, maybe even folks who are looking at a second career?
Absolutely. I think most people at Net Impact are here because they've I started in finance, for example, and they started in an industry and then at some point said, I want something more out of my career. And so they're transitioning out, and they're kind of in that middle ground. And that's where a lot of richness comes from, and a lot of vitality, but also a lot of loneliness and isolation. So I think being that community that really bridges that and helps people discover what their real values are and how they can align that with a career.
Yeah. So tell us where people can learn more about Net Impact.
Sure. We have our website is www.netimpactlosangeles.org. We also have a Twitter, Net Impact LA, and Facebook is Net Impact LA. So we're always looking for leadership teammates, people that can lead projects and create programs. But we're also looking for community members, people to volunteer with us and be part of our growing community.
Well, that's great. Well, we want to thank you, Jenn, for coming here and being with us here on Creating Good Work, because that's really what you guys are all about as well, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you very much.
And
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you again.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for today for Creating Good Work Live. We hope to see you next week. We have a wonderful show lined up for you then. David Jones from Microsoft's Envisioning Lab and the Future of Work will be with us, and it's going to be a very exciting, interesting show about the new possibilities that are in front of us. So again, for Greg and myself, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us.
Creating Good Work Live is a production of the Social Action Media Network on T Radio V.
You are watching T Radio V, Radio and TV.